Hello and welcome to another video from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. It's Friday, which means it's press conference day, and this week it's the same again as has been all week. Joe's off on his holiday, so it's myself and Neil having a look at the latest team news and the latest press conferences ahead of the early Friday night deadline for Blank Gameweek 27. It's all happening at frantic pace. We've only got a few hours left to sort our teams out. That's why we're going to do this video live rather than record it and re-upload it, to give you guys a little bit of extra time to sink your teeth into all that team news. So let's come straight over to you, Neil. How you feeling ahead of this deadline and all the team news flying in?
Yeah, good. Yeah, from a work perspective, it's been a lot easier because there's fewer teams to write about. Although I wasn't prepared for the headline news, which I'm about to discuss from Crystal Palace, because that's he's one of my few remaining defenders with a game, and I expect he's in a lot of the active fantasy managers teams as well.
Yeah, no, it's a big piece of news, isn't it? I mean, I think that's where we started with him, and I think it's one of those weeks where people might have even been considering starting him. So I mean, what sort of impact do you foresee that having on perhaps your own squad and a few other people out there?
Yeah, I should just tell everybody his name. It's of course it's Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Yeah, this came out of the blue. I hadn't heard anything about this. He wasn't involved at Doncaster last weekend in the FA Cup, but then Hodgson did rotate on a fairly wide scale anyway, so I didn't read anything into that. And Hodgson just gave his press conference. I think it was about an hour ago. I think it was, or 2 hours ago. And he out of the blue just ruled Wan-Bissaka out with a hamstring problem. He says it's not too serious, he hopes. They've also lost Martin Kelly to a muscular injury. So they're probably going to have Joel Ward at right back. So yeah, that'll might not have a major impact on Palace themselves, despite how impressive Wan-Bissaka has been this season. But it'll have a huge impact on a lot of fantasy teams up and down the country and across the world. With 5 hours to go before the deadline, there's very little time for people to make contingency plans, especially if they made the transfers already. So yeah, that was a bit of a shocker.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite rare that we actually get that on a Friday afternoon, that someone so widely owned is ruled out in that way. I mean, just the way that I'm kind of looking at it, I've been weighing up Leicester options, and obviously they're going to be going away to King Power Stadium, and I mean, I'm a little bit, I don't want to say excited, that's the wrong word, but sort of I feel that there's possibly an opportunity for anyone who is thinking about those Leicester assets. If Palace are going to be without two defenders here, Kelly I think would have been one of the players who could have filled in for Wan-Bissaka as well. So they're missing two people from that side of the pitch, and already seen a few people saying that perhaps is helpful for anyone considering maybe Damari Gray or Harvey Barnes, someone who could play on that left flank. Although of course we don't actually know exactly which Leicester player will play on that left flank. But do you think that might just kind of help ease a few more Leicester players into a few more squads?
Possibly. The problem with as you said, with trying to pinpoint who could exploit that weakness at right back is that we don't know who Puel's going to pick for his midfield three or midfield two behind the central striker. So Damari Gray played up front as a centre forward against Spurs. We might see him back on the left flank. Harvey Barnes was ostensibly the left winger in that match. Now Leicester themselves have got some injury problems, which were raised yesterday in Puel's press conference. Now, one of the players affected is down that left-hand side, and it's Ben Chilwell, who is, I think, possibly second most popular defensive option behind Ricardo Pereira for this forthcoming run that Leicester's got. They've got a fantastic set of fixtures ahead of them. 9 games without meeting any of the big six. They've got games in blank game weeks 27, 31, 33. So yeah, that news on Chilwell will have put a lot of people off and probably pushed more folk towards Pereira, and I think he got a price rise last night, possibly as a result. So yeah, I mean, I was going to play Wan-Bissaka actually. I didn't really have much faith in Leicester's attacking assets at home. It's a bit of a cauldron. It can be a bit of a toxic atmosphere if Puel's, having one of his defensive masterclasses. He's playing 3 central midfielders. So I was very happy to play Wan-Bissaka. It's possibly weakens Palace a little bit, but they've got Tompkins back from a calf injury, for example, so he'll make a big difference, I think, alongside Sacco, and they've got Van Aanholt fit as well. So yeah, I don't think it'll be make a huge difference. I think it'll still be a fairly low scoring affair, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's more likely to affect the fantasy managers than the actual managers, perhaps in that particular
Yeah.
match. But we move from one right back to another, and sort of hasn't been mentioned by name in the press conference today. But it sounds like from the lines coming out of Wolves that it looks like Doherty is probably all right. What's your take on him and the injury situation at Wolves?
Yeah, it certainly sounds that way. Santo's not the loquacious type. He tends to keep his press conferences beneath 10 minutes. And he was asked about the team news. The reporter in question, I even mentioned Doherty and Jota by name. And Santo only gave us 3 words, and everybody is okay, which sounds very promising. And I've seen some training ground photos of Doherty in action as well. So it looks positive news on that front, which will be welcome news, I think, to those who've won Wan-Bissaka as well. So that's a yellow flag that will be coming off if it hasn't already. I think it probably has. So yeah, Doherty looks like he's going to be fit to play.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's great news for a lot of people, as you say. Doherty might be someone that people were considering benching, but they may now have to be starting him with Wan-Bissaka out. And I think we should just all take a moment and appreciate the fact that we're actually talking about Wolves in one of these team news videos, because they seem to just never get injuries. It's quite rare for us to be sweating over players from there. I mean, I've read something that they've just, compared to other teams, they've had hardly any injuries this year. And a lot of people reckon that they just don't have any physios because they don't need them. So.
Yeah, they can only think of that Johnny injury where he was out for about 6 weeks. I think that's the only one, of a serious nature. They've had the odd niggle, which has caused like Jota missed a few games. But yeah, like most of the players have played most of the games. It's been a very settled side, and someone who writes the team news, it makes my job a lot easier. I mean, I think I wrote today's in about 5 minutes. So yeah, I think it's looking like a clean bill of health again at Molyneux.
Yes, great news definitely for fantasy managers, that one. Now, one particular match that people have been largely staying away from, but there are one or two bold managers who are thinking about maybe going into this match possibly with the captaincy armband, but at the very least we're all going into it with lots of options anyway, regardless. Manchester United v Liverpool. We've got some updates from the two managers ahead of that particular game. We'll start with Manchester United concerning some of their more attacking assets. Yeah, a little bit of an update on Martial and Lingard, and some comments from Solskjaer about how they can manage with or without them.
Yes, so we were first given an update, I think it was last Friday, wasn't it, ahead of the FA Cup match, where Solskjaer said Martial and Lingard are going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks. Now, a week on, it looks like both of them are back in contention to play against Liverpool on Sunday. The expectation is that it's going to be Martial who's got a better chance of featuring. Solskjaer said he thinks Martial will be fine, whereas he hopes Lingard will recover. So I think Martial's got the better chance. They were both pictured back at the training ground this week. So that's a major boost to them, and possibly a dent anyone with a Liverpool asset. I mean, I know Man United went away at Chelsea and did a number on them without Martial and Lingard, but they make a lot of difference. I think even from a defensive perspective, sort of pressing from the front, I think that's a huge bonus for Man United, even having Lingard say available on the bench. And I think certainly Martial, especially down that left flank, which is a bit of a problem position when he's not there, because Sanchez has sort of proved over the past couple of weeks that he's not the force he once was. And Rashford, whenever he's used down that left, he's maybe not quite as effective. So that's very positive news for Manchester United, and not so good for Liverpool.
Yeah, a lot of people have been wondering what they should do with their Liverpool defensive assets, and obviously we've had an update on that area of the team, because that tends to be where Liverpool struggled for injuries recently. Nothing too groundbreaking here from Klopp, but just re-highlighting the situation that still not quite at full strength at the back, are they?
Yeah, it's as we expected. So Gomez, we knew he wouldn't feature. He's out for another couple of weeks, I think. Lovren had a very slim chance of being involved, but he's not going to be called upon either. So those are the two injuries, as well as Oxlade-Chamberlain. Apart from that, they've got a clean bill of health. So they had a few illness worries over the past couple of weeks. But Van Dijk's back from suspension. He was banned in midweek for that Champions League match. So you should see a fairly predictable back four, I would say. Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, Van Dijk and Matip. They have got people like Fabinho and Milner who can fill in. But it sounds like that's going to be the back four for Manchester United.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly looks like the recipe for, at the very least, Man United scoring. I mean, obviously we just got that update of it looks like there may be some the right players in place for Man United to be at their attacking best, and it looks like it's still going to be that same Liverpool defence that has kind of struggled really. Ironically, a lot of people have knocked Lovren, but they seem to be better off when they had everybody fit, and Lovren seemed to be first choice. So yeah, do you think there's goals in that for Man United with those updates?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I didn't expect Lovren to be back, and Matip hasn't done terribly. I think he's done all right, but I think there possibly isn't the same rapport between Van Dijk and Matip as there is with Van Dijk and Gomez, especially, and then perhaps Lovren. So yeah, I mean, I'm playing both of my Man United assets this weekend, Rashford and Pogba. So yeah, I think the form Manchester United are in, the fact that they're on home soil as well. I'd be quietly confident of there being some sort of attack and return. I think possibly I'm being influenced by the fact that I haven't got a Liverpool defender, but yeah, who knows? We might get a turgid 0-0 like we did earlier in the season with Liverpool and Man City, or we could get an absolute humdinger.
Yeah, well, I think we're hoping for a humdinger. That would help a lot of people out, I think. One particular team that people have been kind of waiting on injury news. I feel like every week we're always waiting to see what Eddie Howe has got to say on Brooks and Wilson, and every week we tend to get the same answer. Not ready yet. What was the answer this week?
Sorry, I was looking elsewhere. How very unprofessional. Brooks and Wilson, did you say that?
That's right. Yeah. The two Bournemouth lads.
See, this is the problem we're doing it live. You can't edit it in the suite afterwards. Yeah, they're definitely out. Howe said they were still some way from featuring, so they won't be included this weekend. Then we're going to make a late chat on Stanislas as well. Although they've got Klein back, who was eligible to play against Liverpool. So yes, I think they're. Otherwise, apart from those two, there's no new injury concerns reported by Howe, although he has pulled the rug from under us several times this season. So who knows what lineup will face.
Yeah, he's very good at rumbling the press, isn't he? And especially fantasy managers. Not a lot of people are big fans of Eddie Howe in that respect.
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of largely most of the updates that we've had today that are kind of relevant. Obviously, mentioned at the top, blank game week, so we've got fewer press conferences that are as important on Friday. And because we've got a Friday night deadline as well, we actually had some press conferences all the way back on Wednesday. So not so much breaking news on the team news front, but we do still have an update from Thursday, which a lot of people will already know about. Not so many people maybe might not know about. Still worth talking about though. Tottenham Hotspur, Harry Kane back in training, has a chance of playing against Burnley. What do we think? Do we think he's going to be involved?
It certainly sounds that way. I think Pochettino said himself that Kane desperately wants to play, which we've seen before. He's very good at recovering from injuries and putting himself back in the first team picture ahead of schedule. I've got a suspicion that he might be on the bench. I think Spurs have got 3 games coming up in the space of a week, 3 Premier League games. And Pochettino might not rush him. He's very keen to stress that it's going to be his decision alone. So you might get Llorente having a stay execution for 1 game. But if Kane doesn't start, then I expect him to come on as a substitute and then probably start again in midweek onwards, which is an interesting grenade to throw into the double and blank game week mix, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody thought they knew what to do.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, just as you say, grenade dropped.
Yep.
And it could just completely change everything. We may have another premium striker we've got to fit in. Some of the cheaper options, though, again, this was from earlier in the week, but obviously Cardiff playing tonight. A lot of people have this guy, nice, cheap budget midfielder, Victor Camarasa, in and out of the team with injuries recently. How's he looking ahead of?
Yeah, I'm one of his owners as well. I might be forced to play him at this going rate with Wan-Bissaka. Yeah, he's essentially fit or fit enough to feature on the bench anyway. He came on as a substitute against Southampton. He grabbed an assist actually for Zaho's winner. But there's still nagging doubts about whether he's well enough to start. Warnock says he's got a medical team in Spain, a separate one, Camarasa, that looks after him. And they're often at loggerheads in the Cardiff staff and this private group of medics that Camarasa employs. So yeah, it's an ongoing calf problem that he's managing. And over the past few game weeks, Warnock's been very, very keen to stress that he won't play anyone who's not 100% fit. And he has cited Camarasta's performance against Huddersfield, it was when it was 0-0. And he said he wasn't ready then and he made a mistake playing him. So there are still sufficient doubts, if not for a flag in FPL, then enough doubt to suggest he might not start and he might only be a substitute. But we don't know. He's a very important player for Cardiff. They definitely play better with him in the side, or certainly more of a creative force when he's in the side. But yeah, there's uncertainty surrounding whether he'll be on the team sheet tonight, isn't it? Cardiff's playing on the Friday night match. So yeah, I can't bring any positive good news for any of his owners, unfortunately.
Well, speaking of not being able to bring positive news, a lot of people have Kolasinac obviously ahead of game 27 against Southampton, and another injury problem for Arsenal at the back. Koscielny obviously went off last night, and we have heard from Unai Emery on the subject. He doesn't seem too worried. No. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, he said it was precautionary in nature. It's a muscular problem, and they're going to be assessed ahead of the weekend. I don't think it necessarily weakens them too much. They've got Socrates back, who's I think's been out for about a month. He came on off the bench last night and replaced Koscielny, so you expect he'd just slot in alongside Mustafi, perhaps, at centre back. Now, we did see Kolasinac on the bench last night, didn't we? Monreal was playing at left back, probably just preserving him for the weekend. But yeah, interesting speculation over the Arsenal lineup, I suppose. We don't know whether Özil will start again. He was back in the team last night. We're not entirely sure whether Aubameyang and Lacazette will start as a two. Aubameyang could be out on the left because Emery's been very, very unpredictable this season. He's one of the worst to try and second guess when you're writing the team news. But Lacazette, we should stress, wasn't involved against Barty Borisov last night because he was suspended, so he's fully fresh ahead of that game against Southampton.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, as you say, Emery's just a bit of a nightmare, isn't he? He's made more half-time substitutions than any other manager as well. He loves to chop and change. So, yeah, who knows, really? Who knows? on that, only he knows. Eventually he'll work out what his best team is, and when he does that, that'll be a great day for fantasy managers and people who have to write about it, namely us.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool, so I think that's all of the big team news that we need to talk about this afternoon. So, a couple of hours till deadline. Make sure you go back and have a look at all the other content that we've done this week. Did the captain video on Monday, had the Scoutcast on Tuesday, and we've got the Captain Sensible article one up this morning. Differentials yesterday. Everything you need ready for Black Gameweek 27, all on the site right now. So make sure you head over there and enjoy that. It's a goodbye from me. Good luck for the game week, everybody, and good luck to you, Neil, and see you on the other side.
Yeah, good luck, David. See you soon.